a little, you know, like...
We're good.
I see, we're live.
We're live.
do you know what my introduction is going to be? Hello! You're an idiot.
It is whatever it is right this minute.
Hello,
Okay,
everybody.
Hello. So if anybody, for those of you who are watching with us, welcome to our chat. We're doing very, very low-key. We're all kind of hanging out, and hence Google Hangouts, so this is the perfect medium. And we just thought it would be fun to share some of the really idiotic conversations that we have amongst each other with the rest of you, and have some serious topics in there as well. So what I figured I would do is I'll introduce you to everybody, and I'll actually let them introduce themselves. So we'll start with you, Craig. Take it away.
Craig Lancaster. I live in Billings, Montana, so I'm the only one for whom this hangout is happening at 6 o'clock instead of 8 o'clock. Author of 3 novels, 4th on the way, the most recent of which is Edward Adrift, which is also in the little graphic in the corner. So the one coming in September is a big old mouthful of a title. It's called The Fallow Season of Hugo Hunter. And just as a teaser, I saw the cover for the first time today. Can't show it to anybody yet. So yeah, there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Next we have R.J. Keller. Take it away.
Hello, I am R.J. Keller. I live in Bangor, Maine, and I'm the author of Waiting for Spring. Plug that. And I am now working on 2 novels, 2 follow-ups to Waiting for Spring, and those should hopefully be out within the next year.
Yes, excellent. And next we have Todd Keisling.
Hello, folks. I am a horror writer, and yeah, that's what I do. I write really scary, messed up things, and one of my goals in life is to convert Elisa Lorello into a horror writer as well. I am the author of 2 novels, 2/3 of the Monochrome trilogy, Life Transparent and The Liminal Man, and my most recent release is The Harbinger, which is the latest release in my short fiction series, Ugly Little Things. Those are Kindle only, but we are putting together a limited edition hardcover, which will be coming out sometime this summer. No release date on that yet, but it's in the works, I promise.
Excellent. And for those who don't know me, I am Elisa Lorello, and I am currently residing in southeastern Massachusetts, but have been spending quite a lot of time on Long Island recently. I am the author of Friends of Mine, 30 Years in the Life of a Duran Duran Fan, which is a memoir. And my most recent novel is She Has Your Eyes. You could see the icon on to the left of your screen. And if you have followed Faking It, An Ordinary World, it is the continuation of Andy's journey. And it's been doing very well. So that is all of us. We are quite an eclectic group. If you go to the events page that we've all posted on Facebook, there's a link to that. You can post questions or comments there and have fun with discussion, or you could go to the YouTube link and you can post questions or comments there as well. And we certainly welcome anything that you have to say or contribute, or if you just want to tell us to shut up. That's in that case, it would be a very short broadcast.
We'll take it under advisement in a couple of hours. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. We'll take it under advisement. So, let's start with the fun one, which I was thinking about. I don't know why this came up, but I was thinking, if we had to pull a Freaky Friday, which one of us would you want to trade places with for a day? And what would you do?
experiences with Craig, and then I would wear those pants all over the place.
Damn it! Damn it! I was gonna say that. God damn it!
Hey, knock it off. I got truculent dogs. So, yeah, everybody wants to get into my pants.
Greg Lancaster, everybody.
Good night, folks.
Well,
I would be you, Kel, because free chocolate all day.
That's pretty rad. Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
So that would be my choice. Although I would probably get you fired for eating all of the merchandise.
They're sort of used to that. I've been working there for 2 months.
Okay.
Can I have 3 different author choices? You know, like I just like hit a button and bring up 3 random other authors. You know, before I commit.
No, it doesn't work.
I would say Keisling, but you know, no, not that. Yeah, I might have to go with Kel as well. You know, I've been in Maine. It was fun. I'd like to go back. If I got some chocolate too, then that'd be perfect. So.
I don't know, guys. I don't feel really loved here. Nobody wants to be me.
I was the same thing.
Man. It's just from a distance. I also would like to go to where Kel lives and walk around and go, banger. I don't even know her because I'm sure nobody there has ever heard that joke.
Never heard that, ever.
Yeah.
No, never. That's
Never.
Yeah, I think I'd be breaking Pura Nova with that one. So.
Or people will say, hey, have you ever met Stephen King? And I'm like, yeah, we're like wicked close. Yeah.
Hit him with my van one day. Yeah.
Nice.
I think it would also be interesting to be R.J. Keller with the Long Island accent. and plus, I would make you a Yankees fan for the day.
No, that would just not happen.
Yes, it would.
I was where I work. We have Yankees and Boston Red Sox lollipops, and I was interviewed on the news for our opening a couple of months ago, and I said I can't stand in front of the pops because the Yankees symbol is showing, and I can't do that. I can't be on the news with the Yankee symbol behind me. They actually moved me so it wasn't showing. So.
Nice work. Nice work.
Good job.
Yeah, we do what we have to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got it. So, well.
I would like to be Craig for a day, just so I could be closer to him. I just want to love you.
Well, I've been me for 44 years, man, and I got to tell you, it's not that great. And so.
But you got those cool glasses.
Yeah.
Ooh, me? With Todd?
Yes.
Yeah.
You both do, actually.
Yeah.
I thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I should wear them more than I do. I actually do need them, but I always forget them. And my wife came unglued when she found out how much I paid for them. I was like, "They're Oakleys," and she's like,
"Oh, see, there you go.
God.
Get out of here! Get out of here!" You know. So yeah, I'm a brand whore.
My glasses. Mine are similar. I just didn't want the reflection in the glasses, and close enough where I could see these all. So I'm all right. I'm good. So what are there any other questions other than some of the ones I had discussed? I know there was a good discussion starting with also the question I posted about the issue of women's fiction, which seems to have been coming up in my feed quite a bit lately, both my Twitter feed and my Facebook feed and stuff. So that was just something else I had been thinking about. But feel free to discuss another topic if you want. Although, like I said, I think there was some good discussion already about it.
I actually want to give a shout out to Paula Limbaugh. She's actually a friend of mine who I met through horror novel reviews. That's a plug, by the way. Um, she's a reviewer there, and I thought her answer to the question about women's fiction was excellent.
Yes,
I
please
myself
read it.
don't have I feel like she answered it pretty well. Um, for the people viewing who haven't, joined the event, the question was, should women's fiction be classified as a genre? With which genre do you most closely identify with your novels? Da 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 da. But the main part is about the women's fiction being its own separate genre. And Paula said, I thought women have fought the hard fight to be considered on par with a male. For a long time, women used initials rather than their names so their books would sell. To now create a genre called women's fiction would be akin to stepping backwards, or so I think. I agree. I think it's kind of ridiculous that there would be a separate section for women's fiction. Why can't we just have fiction?
I agree with that. There's this whole area that falls under the general heading of marketing, and they make all kinds of strange decisions and classify books based on that. I'm much more in favor of Michael Chabon's attitude, which, and I'm not going to quote him precisely here, but he said something like, what I would like is two categories: good books and crap, and then
Yeah.
and then I would, if I owned a bookstore, I would stock that bookstore full of good books, and I would leave the crap out, and I would love to get to a place where we're egalitarian enough to just say, that's a damn fine book, and that's all you need to know,
Absolutely. That's
That'd be
actually
awesome.
my pen name, why I started with initials, because I knew that if I had my feminine name on a book, that it would automatically be, relegated or delegated to chick lit or women's fiction, which is bullshit. I don't write, I don't feel, women books or books for women. I write books, for people, and that's not a genre. I think it's insulting. I think it's disgusting, really. I think, I can understand having genres, like, if you want drama or comedy or whatever, that's totally cool with me. Humor, women's fiction is not a genre at all, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I am increasingly pulling away from it with the same distaste for the label, mainly because we don't have men's fiction. We have women's fiction and fiction, which I think is pretty unfair. That it can't just be general fiction, and we don't, and male authors don't seem to have that distinction of being a male author. They're just an author, whereas women have that double standard of, oh, you are a woman author, or you write for women, and that's not necessarily the case. I absolutely started out marketing myself that way, but like I said, I'm more and more uncomfortable with it. The interesting thing to me is I find that there are some readers who are very comfortable with that genre because they feel it is for them. They feel exclusive to it. But again, I don't know that I'm that comfortable with that. I mean, again, that's just for me. I don't know. I don't look for women's books. I just look for good books.
Right.
Or books written by women. I'm just looking for good books in general, and I don't try to distinguish between one gender to another.
I think I've been in some form of publishing for 25 years, and I think some really wrong-headed decisions come from a right-hearted kind of place. I used to work for, we were talking about Kentucky earlier. I used to work for this newspaper, Kentucky, and they had a weekly section for seniors. Okay, and so that's like an interesting idea in the abstract. But what they did is they bumped the point size of the body type up just a little bit, and what it said is, well, you know, you're not interested in the rest of the paper that comes every day, but this one day a week will make it easier for you to read in this one little section. You know, so it became this horribly condescending kind of thing, even though the thought that led to the creation of the section came from the right place, you know. So
that sounds like Kentucky.
Well, it just sounds like, you know, ideas in a boardroom somewhere, you know,
Yeah.
and without really thinking of how it plays out on the street. And you know, I mean, all kinds of things get done for marketing reasons. You know, I just this book cover that I can't show anybody. You know, I had a long discussion with my editor about the book concerns, at least on some level, a washed up boxer, and so we had these mini discussions about how, you know, we don't want any overt boxing imagery on here because it's going to turn off a lot of people who would otherwise like the story, right? So, which is, you know, an interesting debate to have, you know. But
I look forward to seeing the one-star review of the one boxer who got pissed off by the cover.
Yeah, no kidding.
Sorry to cut you off, but I had to get that out there.
Yeah.
Well, I make it very clear to my design team that I will not have a pink book cover. Never. I will never have a pink book cover.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is I should have been explicit about that, or
Yes.
just kidding.
Or maybe if, you know, you wanted to appeal to both, you know, men and women, you could have pink boxing gloves.
Yeah. No.
Personally, I think the cover should just be his pants.
For those of you tuning in, Craig has some awesome pants he'd like to show off.
Yeah.
No.
We already discussed that point
I
of view.
almost killed my computer the last time I tried to do that because the
Yes.
camera's up too high, you know. And I don't want to jump because that'll lead to all kinds of tragedy. So
Get the link to the pants and post it in the event page so people can at least
Okay.
see their glory.
I'll do that.
Yeah, we don't want anybody suing us for
For anything.
X-rated content.
Yeah.
So do we have any other questions or issues, or
Oh, let's see. Nothing new.
no?
Nope.
Anybody have anything to say?
You had like some further questions following the women's fiction question about which genre do you most closely identify your novels, and do you think your readership is gender specific? I guess that probably was just covered, but in general. But I'm just reading what you wrote.
One thing to kind of follow up on, you know, or to add one more point to it, which, and again, this is something I struggle, I don't know, struggle is the right word, I'm not losing sleep over it or anything, but this idea of chick lit as a genre that is interchangeable with women's fiction, or in some cases is distinct from women's fiction. And what I deliberate with that is, to me, chick lit does have very distinct features. So in terms of or characteristics as a genre. So is that an acceptable genre, do you think? Or should that be abolished as well? And just all be under this one very large umbrella of general fiction?
Well, I really think chick lit came about because of Sex and the City, and it made a lot of money for a lot of people, and so they're like, let's have a Sex and the City genre, but we can't call it that. So let's call it chick lit, which is, I feel, super offensive and obnoxious and stupid, but I don't know that it should be you know, eliminated as a genre, I guess, because I think there's a lot of talented authors who do right in that, and you have a group of readers who are used to that, and I would like to think that eventually those kind of genres and titles will sort of die out on their own. I do know that when I started writing Waiting for Spring, I was so sick to death of that entire genre, or that whole section, and I actually wrote my book sort of as an anti-chick lit book. I actually made notes, very block letters. No shoes will be bought in the course of this book because but then I actually changed my mind, and my protagonist does buy a pair of shoes, but they're men's shoes that she buys too big so she can hide her footsteps when she tries to go to kill somebody. So I felt that was my answer to chick lit. But I really feel like it's kind of insulting to the authors. I think it's insulting really to the people who read it. Chick lit. That's really disgusting to me. But that's my opinion. Feminism.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know how many like book club gatherings the rest of you have gone to, or Skype sessions with book clubs. I've done a lot of that kind of thing, and the community aspect of reading is I wouldn't even say it's predominantly female. It's like almost exclusively female in my experience. I went to one book club that had men in it, and it was a couples book club. And other than that, it has been 100% women. And so, there's I don't know, I almost think you have to define your terms, like genres. I don't care what the genres are, really. To me, that's a place a book, sell a book idea. It doesn't have anything to do with what I'm thinking about when I write a book. But then I don't write in any identifiable genre. I guess if I were writing, Harlequins, I'd be following a different set of rules, or cozy mysteries or whatever. But I don't. So yeah, I have a hard time sort of getting my arms around the idea of, well, we should abolish this, or we should, structure it this way. Some of it is just straight marketing and sales kind of stuff. It really exists on a level far beyond my involvement with the book, So.
Yeah, I can't help but wonder if maybe just the whole idea of the genre really developed as the box stores rose in popularity and presence, and when you have that many shelves to fill and you don't want your customers aimlessly wandering around, and you're not using a Dewey Decimal System in a bookstore, I wonder if that's how genre came to be such a specific thing. And that's just me kind of thinking out loud, not really making a point. But Craig, I know you and I have had conversations about this, about what we write in terms of that even though I have marketed myself as a women's fiction author and have been marketed as a women's fiction author, I really don't know what genre I'm writing. It's kind of the same thing, and it's the number one advice I tell writers who are asking, well, I think I'm writing a chick lit book. I'm like, well, why are you so concerned about the genre? Why don't you just write a really good story? and let it fall where, let your marketing guys take care of that. But again, then that falls into, the whole advice of then, well, if you're querying a literary agent, then you have to be able to tell them what your book is, or I think in some ways we're forced to constantly think in genre, but I think when it comes down to the actual business, getting down to writing, I think we just have to write the stories we want to write. I mean, would you say the same thing, Todd? I mean, are you thinking, oh, I can't wait to write my next horror novel, or are you thinking, oh, I can't wait to write my next story?
Well, it's kind of funny, and I'll come back to this in a second, but we were mentioning before we went live talking about Facebook and everything, and I think with the rise of social media, and especially with like the functionality of pages in Facebook, you can see the demographics of who's interacting with you on a regular basis. And I had this weird moment last summer when I was writing the Ugly Little Things stories. I had this realization that most of the people who are interacting with me on my Facebook page are female. And then I had this bizarre moment where I'm like, well, how many of the protagonists in my stories are female, and do they end up, something bad happen to them? Does something good happen to them? Does something objectify them? Is it sexist in any way? And I was like, I had to take a step back from that. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? I'm like, I was taught first and foremost, be true to your story, and don't write for a specific genre. That's, like you said, that's for the marketing people to worry about. That's, wait until it's done and it's ready to go before you start thinking about where it's going to go, what shelf is it going to sit on. And I don't know, I come from that school of thought, let the story be what it wants to be, and then figure out where and to whom it should be marketed. So that's what I think about it.
Yeah. And that's, I think editorial guidance comes into this. My upcoming novel, the novel that I first submitted to my editor, and also your editor, Elisa, was markedly different from the one that ended up getting accepted for publication. I get these notes back that says, way less of this guy and way more of this, and so you have to internalize that and decide, is that true? Is that a good reading of it? And I didn't need long to know that Terry was right, and that's what I needed to do, and it changed the story, and I'm sure it changed the way they're going to ultimately market it. I'm certain of it, So, but I don't know. A ton of things go into all of this, and where a book gets sold, and to whom, and why, It's really hard to. I mean, I'm sure Amazon can do it because they have data on everything, but like where did this buyer come from and why? What's the interest and all that? I would love to deconstruct all that.
If only they would share that information with us.
Yeah.
I have to recommend a book to you guys. You just reminded me of it, Craig. It's called How I Became a Famous Novel, or How I Became a Novelist, or Famous Novelist. How I Became a Famous Novelist. And oh God, I'm forgetting the name. He was a writer on Letterman.
Oh yeah, I read this.
He was a writer for, I want to say, either Family Guy or The Simpsons. It's hilarious.
It's How I Became a Famous Novelist, and it's basically this guy who sets out to write a literary masterpiece. Right. He's figured out the literary fiction formula for where you get the New York Times review, and they use words like ponderous and
it's hilarious. And what I think what had me in tears were two things. Was the New York Times, well, I don't know that they specifically said it was New York Times, but the bestseller list titles, both for fiction and nonfiction, had me crying with laughter. And then when he's sitting in a Barnes & Noble type bookstore identifying his target market, and he spies a customer in the cafe like just ripping the top off of a jumbo muffin, and he decides that's my audience.
Right.
and he's forever dubbed for the muffin ripper.
And I just posted a link to the book on the event
Oh,
site.
excellent! Thank you.
What's hilarious about that book for me too is he gets invited to this MFA program in Billings, Montana, where I live, which is just hilarious because there's not an MFA program here in Billings. Yeah, Billings is way too self-effacing for an MFA program. You got to go to the western side of the state where people, sort of disappear up their own asshole for that to work. Oh God, I'm gonna get killed by some of my friends in Missoula if they're seeing this. But anyway.
No, it's okay. I feel like you've summed up the MFA experience in a nutshell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good night, folks.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
If you can come up with 20 synonyms for white, you too could write an MFA program. So, bone.
Oh snap,
Oh my
as the
God.
kids say.
Anyway, I highly recommend that you read the book. A, just because you will laugh your ass off, and B, because it does kind of stimulate the very discussions that we're having in terms of what we expect fiction or how we define genre, how we have expectations of genre, how we have expectations of ourselves as writers, and what we're supposed to be as writers, and how we're supposed to conduct ourselves, and that sort of thing. So yeah, it was fun. It was a really, really fun novel to read. So go
I'll have to check that out.
go read it.
now.
Yeah, you'll love it. It's hilarious. It's really, really hilarious. I should take it out again.
Yeah, and it distills about, with about 92% purity, many of the conversations that you see happening online between authors. It's dead on in its evisceration of how it all works. So, yeah.
Yes, and the whole exercise in pretension.
Yes. Yeah. Indeed.
So, are you guys reading anything else lately? We'll segue into that.
I just finished an excellent book last night, actually. And one of my pals, Eric Pruitt, his first novel was published on April 5th, my birthday, as a matter of fact. And it is since we're segueing from genre, it's classified as a Southern Gothic noir book. It's called Dirtbags, and it's fucking great.
Awesome.
I have not had an opportunity to write a review for it yet, but I loved it. I didn't get a chance to read it nonstop, unfortunately, because I've had a really busy couple of months. But he messaged me and asked if I'd finished it, and I said no. And I've decided, all right, I'm going to finish this thing. And I read it in one sitting. The last 30% of this book I read in one shot. If you like noir fiction, pulp style novels, and anything based in the South, it's like the noir version of Joe R. Lansdale. And the thing I loved most about it, honestly, is just it oozes style. His voice and style in this novel are fucking amazing. I don't know. I realize that's really crass, but it actually fits the book because it's full of really bad people. And you just want to keep reading about how they just continuously keep making things worse for themselves. So yeah, it's Dirtbags by Eric Pruitt, and that one's for you, buddy.
Kel, are you reading anything?
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Kel.
Oh, sorry, Craig.
Oh, no, you Craig.
What's that?
Go ahead.
Okay. I went to this grand reopening of Elk River Books in Livingston, Montana last night, and it was the coolest literary event I've ever been involved with. Both in terms of the support of this store by the town, which is just incredible. It's a town of 7,000 people, and who all was in the audience and among the readers. Walter Kern, whose book Blood Will Out is getting all kinds of press right now. Tim Cahill. I mean, they're just William Hortzberg, just amazing stuff. But my next book I'm going to read is by a poet. And I'll read a ton of poetry because I'm not that guy. I don't, the appreciation of it is a little lost on me sometimes. But the way this guy's name's Michael Earl Craig, the way he read, it just changed everything. And so to honor his copyright, I'm not going to read you the whole poem, but I'm going to read you the first 6 lines of the poem he read last night because it's just awesome.
Cool.
The poem is called When It's Time, and it says, the first six lines are, "When it's time, I'd like to be buried in a simple wooden coffin, a pine board box, or even a thick waxed cardboard box. Hell, it doesn't even need to be thick or waxed. See what you think." And it goes on like that for several stanzas, and it's just awesome. It's all these really particular directions to his kinfolk, when he spins off this mortal coil. And so I'm going to buy Michael Earl Craig's book, and I'm going to read everything he's got in there.
Excellent.
All right, Kelly, you're on.
Oh,
yeah, go ahead, Cal.
Well, I've basically just been reading the Dexter series, from the TV show, which is it's pretty good. I finished the first one and just started the second one, and so far a whole lot better than the show, which for me is saying something because I really loved the show. And so yeah, I tend to, when I'm writing, read stuff that's the complete opposite of what I write, and so that's sort of what I'm gravitating toward right now.
So
I'm going to flaunt my ignorance here for a second, but was there a novel series before the television series?
Yes. I know the books were started before the show. I'm not sure where the overlap is, but the basic idea is the same. But okay. Characters are killed off in the first book that make it to the end of the show, and vice versa. But it's really cool. I really like the style of writing. And I cannot for the life of me remember the guy's name, but everybody knows the books and the movies, the show, so he doesn't need a plug.
I'm actually reading 2 books, which I typically don't do, but I've just been reading slowly lately, just because I've had so much going on and I've been traveling here and there. But the first one I'm reading is Rob Cruzy's Starship Grifters, which is just a whole lot of fun. And I've been enjoying that. And I am reading an advanced, an ARC of a book that, and here's a shout out from my friend Heather Grace Stewart, her debut novel is called Strangely Incredibly Good, which I love that title. I wish I had come up with that title. So I've been reading that, and I'm about 6 chapters into that, and so far having fun with that. And the rest of my to-be-read pile is growing higher, or the list is growing longer every day. And we'll see what summer brings in terms of reading time. So that's what I'm reading.
Awesome.
Cal, I wanted to ask real quick, you're reading the Dexter series. Would that be considered research based on our past conversation about psychopaths and sociopaths?
Actually a little bit.
Nice.
But A little bit, yeah. And I haven't even picked up the book that you recommended because that's how I am.
You're breaking my heart.
I know, but yeah. But the Dexter series kind of goes off in a whole nother, because Dexter's a lovable serial killer, and the guy I'm supposed to be writing is just an asshole. So.
I got a question. I was about to, it's funny. I was about to ask you guys. So, are you presently working on anything? And I know that I hate being asked that question because I always say, well, I'm not telling you anyway. Or I'll just say, yeah, I'm working on something. And then when they say, oh, what is it? And I say, I'm not telling you. So I guess my question is, do you have the same issues that I have about sharing works in progress in terms of what their subject matter is or what the title is or what it's about or anything like that? And if you do, why do you, or if you don't have a problem, why don't you have a problem? If you do, if you're like me, is it for the same reasons?
I don't have a problem with it sharing that information. Ever since I launched my website in '07, it's kind of like my promise to the audience I was looking to build is that I would be open about my work. And, part of that reason is selfishness. It helps build hype. I talk about what I'm working on, share when I have a title, I share when I have a cover, or I will strategically reveal the cover at a specific point in time. But, I also, just to try to let people know that I'm not just sitting on my ass and playing video games for weeks at a time. I'm actually doing something.
You say that like there's something wrong with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have to tell you guys that, just because you're not writing doesn't mean you aren't writing. You're always thinking about it. And the wheels are always turning. And, I may not have written a single new word in weeks, but I was putting plots together. I was thinking about character motivation. I was thinking about how this story is going to be shaped in terms of its structure, and is there going to be a theme behind it, and what's it going to mean to me as a person, and how best am I going to gross people out?
Yeah. It's weird that you have to think about that,
I was just about to say that. Oh my God, I was just about to say that. Shit, man, this is not good, Craig, that we are thinking the same thoughts.
It's kind of scary in a way, but at the same time, I always knew you guys were in cahoots.
Yeah, well. Did you notice how I got it out just a fraction of a second faster than you did?
Yeah.
Lancaster before Lorello. That's my code. So, no, I kind of fall where Todd does. I don't mind talking about what I'm working on. I'll sometimes say to somebody, it's in that delicate phase where I don't know which way it's going to go, so I don't want to talk too much about the idea because I want it to still have some, magic pixie dust for me. But I don't mind talking about that. Titles are kind of pointless because I usually start out with a working title and then go to something else. So, but no, it does me some good to talk about it. The thing that I don't like, and Elisa, you and I talked about this yesterday, is when I know I'm going to have to abandon something at least for a little while. Like I made the mistake of saying, "Hey, everybody, I'm working really hard on the third Edward book," and it's just not working for me right now. There's something missing in it, and I've come to the conclusion that I'm going to have to set it down and start the next thing, and maybe in the process of writing the next thing, some of the answers will be unlocked, and I can go back. So I hate people who are, sort of waiting for this third Edward book. That they may have to wait a lot longer than I thought they might have to. So.
I hear you.
Oh, yeah. And actually, that's exactly one of the reasons why I don't like to talk about it, because for example, I mean, with She Has Your Eyes, for example, I did not want anybody to know I was working on that until I was under contract. Because I'm really afraid of that. If for whatever reason it wasn't working, or I had to put it away, or I had to abandon it, I wouldn't want to let them down. And I wouldn't want, and just personally, I wouldn't want the pressure of, so how's that new David Andy book coming out? So how's that new David, when are you going to finish it? When are you going to finish it? And I think for me, just knowing the type of person I am, that would make me not want to work on it.
Right.
Rather than the motivation to say, oh, if somebody's really looking forward to it, then that will motivate me to finish it. Would actually scare me away from it even more. I mean, that's just one of my reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of where I am, to be honest. It's I think I overshared a little too much when I first started working on the Wendy House, and then it went in a completely different direction, and it's like, oh, you have people who are expecting one thing, and then something completely different is coming out. So I learned my lesson from that, and so I try not to share a whole lot at all anymore.
And it's not like the rest of us got our hopes up or anything. God damn it.
Oh my God, the guilt trip.
I'm a parent. Guilt trips don't work on me anymore. but
That's because
yeah.
you're a mom. You know how to. You've mastered the guilt trip.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow, boy, did you hear that? Yeah. What's funny is these dogs, they think they're killers, and they're dachshunds.
You should put the camera on them, and then we can take this over YouTube.
One of them to jump up here so I could show them, but here they come. They're coming back. Crisis averted. Come here, Zoo. Come here, baby. Come here. Yeah. I'll spare you all that business. Here, Zoo.
I read somewhere that dogs don't grasp the concept of size as far as how small they are, so they probably think they're humongous. They think they're monsters, and how dare you want power before them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I should develop that mentality.
Yeah. Yeah.
I bet that would go. I bet I would get a lot more free food if I did that.
Well, wait a minute. If you say more free food, that suggests that you're getting some free food, and I'm going to have to ask for some secrets.
Where's this free food coming from?
Yeah, right.
That's what I want to know.
Yeah, I mean, I know it happens to Kell's work, but where else is it happening? In my time zone, where's the free food?
Pretty much.
I was once told. This is a long time ago. This is about 15 years ago when I was living in a town called Westport here, and it was like the last gas station, that had people that pumped gas for you, and I had a 1985 Caprice Classic. I mean, this thing was a tank, and of course it burned through oil like nobody's business. So I used to ask the guy, to check the oil and everything like that, and I think one time, I forgot what it was, I asked about, the whole hood, the gigantic hood of the Caprice Classic had rusted over. Aw, hello.
Yeah, there she is.
It's a puppy.
Rusted over. And I'd asked about, is there any way to get this rust removed and repaint it, and how much is it going to cost and everything. And the guy said, well, it probably won't cost you very much. You've got a nice smile. And I thought, okay.
Now, did he say you got a nice smile, or did he say you got a purty mouth? Because
there is a difference. There is a difference.
Yeah.
He said I've got a nice smile.
Okay, all right. Yeah, because there's a completely different intent with the latter thing. So, as a watcher of Southern Gothic movies, I just have to tell you that there's.
Craig. So
I'm going to attribute it. You asked for my secret, and I'm going to attribute it to that. I have a nice smile.
Okay, and a car that leaks oil. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not anymore now.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, that Caprice Classic lasted me a long time.
Yeah.
That's just getting on the ferry with it. Talk about intimidating. Oh man, yeah, my Volkswagen Beetle would probably break out into tears if she saw my Caprice Classic. Cower in a corner.
I have a 2002 Monte Carlo right now. It's just my total beater around town car, and I think when I go out to kill that car, you know, I go out with the shotgun and say, "It's time to go, old yeller," you know.
Take it around back.
That car's gonna like pull a knife on me. It's got a will to live that's pretty incredible. So.
My Caprice Classic became an organ donor. I actually gave it to my mechanic, and said, "Do with it what you will," and I think he just
kept it alive for blood transfusions. Yeah.
Yeah. And
you donated your car to science.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Yeah, that was a good car. Rest in peace. And that one I also named it. It was Tanker.
Tanker.
Yeah.
I never distinguished whether it was male or female, but it was Tanker. Yeah, it was a good car.
Mercedes Yardley, a fellow author, just posted a photo in the event page. Craig, you should take a look at it.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
For those who aren't a part of the event, it is a poorly made sign, most likely by someone down south. And it's painted, it's hand painted, it says, "Trespassers will be hog with 2 G's, tied until they have a purty, P-U-R-T-Y, mouth."
Wow, this must be the elusive, like, French redneck I've heard so much.
The French redneck.
Trespasseurs. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Uh,
I'm looking at it right now.
I think that's one of the greatest things I've seen all day.
That's hilarious.
Trespassers.
I don't think I could find it now, but I saw one on a friend's page a couple of days ago that had this, like, you know, dark tunnel, you know, like a irrigation ditch tunnel that goes under a road, and spray painted on the concrete was an arrow, and it's hugs. You know?
I've seen that. I've seen that.
My friend posted it with, you know, "seems legit," you know. Yeah. The only thing they don't tell you is what part of you they're going to hug.
Yeah. It's like every experience I've ever had in New Jersey.
Oh, I concur.
See?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I love about New Jersey, and it's not like I've spent a lot of time there, but everybody who's from New Jersey tells you what exit they're from. Not, you know, not the town, but they tell you which exit on the turnpike.
Actually, that's a Long Island thing too. You kind of, when you say where are you, and you say I'm off, you know, exit 62 off the LIE or something, you know, you kind of you situate, or you say I'm North Shore or South Shore, you know, you use those little markers, I guess. But yeah, usually you try to position yourself on where you are from the Long Island Expressway.
Huh. Yeah, that's just a east-west divide kind of thing, I guess. You know, I spent most of my life west of the Mississippi, and we don't do things like that out here.
Wasn't there a movie?
That's horribly, like, you know, provincial of me to go, you know, we don't do that shit out here.
Or we completely lie if we're afraid you're actually going to come visit. I'll be like, yeah, well, you know, kind of right off the Southern State Parkway. You know, just get off exit 20, you know, and just take a left, and yeah, you're there.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Wasn't there a movie like in the late '80s with Chevy Chase and Dan Aykroyd about this couple who takes a wrong turn off the Jersey Turnpike and ends up in this landfill with this bizarre like Baron type figure like lording over it? It was bizarre. Like I saw it late night one time when I was a teenager, and I didn't know what the fuck I was watching.
I don't.
I swear it was a documentary.
You know,
Yeah, that doesn't sound familiar to me, but
I'm going to
I haven't
IMDb
had
to look
near
this
as
up.
much cocaine as Chevy Chase, so.
And Dan Aykroyd.
Hey, settle down out there. All right, sorry.
I'm looking this up now because now I have to know.
And in case we've alienated any of our New Jersey viewers, we say this with love.
Yeah,
I don't.
We'll be moving on.
I have
Not even
never had a
going to
good time in New
politeness.
Jersey.
Yeah.
Not even going to feign politeness.
Nope. All you get's 100% honesty with me.
That's okay. If Cal and I could be friends, you know, even though we are arch enemies via baseball, we can.
Well, that's why we can talk about politics. We can talk about religion. We can't talk about baseball. So.
Yes. It just won't.
Around.
Although today I just found out that Todd is a Rolling Stones fan as opposed to a Beatles fan.
Okay.
Hey,
hold on. Let me clarify this because take it.
Go on.
I have nothing but respect for the Beatles and what they've done for music in general. I have not a bad thing to say about the Beatles, unless we're counting Yoko, and then I do have bad things to say about the Beatles. But I've always been more of a Stones guy. You know, I can appreciate Strawberry Fields Forever, but give me Paint It Black, man.
But honestly, I would say, turn around and say the exact same thing. I respect the Stones. I like their music. I wouldn't call myself a fan. And given a choice between a Stones album and a Beatles album, I'm going to pick the Beatles album.
Okay. That movie, by the way, is called Nothing But Trouble. And it had Chevy Chase, Dan Aykroyd, John Candy, and Demi Moore.
Oh, my.
I think it was Nothing But Not Seen. So, yeah.
Gonna add that to my Netflix queue.
Yeah.
No thanks. Not for me. No. It would be too realistic. So we're coming up on 9 o'clock. I had set the event for 10 just because I didn't know how long we were going to go. But if we're not getting if we don't have any other questions or comments, I would say we could wind it up in about 10-15 minutes. What do you all think?
Yeah, I think if the questions don't start rolling in, guys, please, questions. Yeah. We can call it in about 10 to 15. But I don't know. I'm having fun. Yeah.
Have another beer, Todd.
I will. I'll be right back.
You know what? Honestly, what I've been wondering about all day, and I really don't know if it's too inside baseball or if, three people who are published by Amazon-owned imprints even want to mess with this particular question, but what's going on with the Amazon Hachette thing, if that's, if anybody cares. It seems like it's all that's being talked about by the people that I know on Facebook, but the people that I know on Facebook skew about 90% author and publishing. So, and the other 10% are people I went to high school with. So, that's pretty exciting.
I've not been following it mainly because what I've seen of it is the biased version of it. So I'm getting the I'm getting the stuff that's being the links that booksellers are posting that are very anti-Amazon, and then getting the things by pro-Amazon. And I don't know what this, to me, that's when I ask, okay, so what's the story?
Right.
I don't want the extreme on either side, so that's why I'm kind of not following it, because I haven't really gotten a straight answer with that.
Are we talking about the hatchet thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you, Elisa. Yeah.
Well, if it's hard to know what exactly, because neither, Amazon of course doesn't say anything, which is their general, which is how they come at every news story, and without knowing what it is they're arguing about, it's just hard to even draw a bead on. I'm sure it's margin on ebooks, and retailers and publishers have been fighting about this stuff forever. Barnes and Noble and Simon and Schuster just had this big
right.
thing where, we won't order as many of your titles or display them as well unless we get some more co-op money. And it's.
To me, it seems to be the same battle that the cable companies are having with the channels.
Yeah.
Yep.
With we're not going to show Comedy Central unless they fork over
right.
whatever they need to fork. It's that same kind of stranglehold that they're both, both sides are, playing chicken and waiting for the other one to blink. And
what made it, I think, a little more interesting for the average, let's face it, the average person, their interaction with the book business is, where do I buy a book? And what sort of ramped it all up was yesterday when all the buy buttons on that publisher's books got pulled off the site. That's interesting. I think is probably the diplomatic way to put it.
I think something that a lot of authors, probably have a hard time realizing is that, it's all. I'm sure people at Amazon and people at Hatchet, for whatever their reasoning are for having the, this schism here between the two companies, I'm sure that the people there running these companies aren't out actively trying to basically screw over the author. And I think a lot of the stuff that I've read about it, I read something from an open letter that was posted on Publishers Weekly, I think it was, earlier today, from one of the guilds that they sent it to Amazon, basically just lambasting them over their decision to pull books, and it's how it's harming their authors and everything. And at the same time, they're businesses. Right. They're out to make money. It's about profit so that they can keep doing what they've been doing. And yeah, it sucks. Authors are basically caught in the middle. I completely sympathize. Hell, I posted about it a couple of weeks ago. I've had this issue with Amazon for over a year. I've been sending people to get print copies of my novels to Barnes and Noble because Amazon is showing 3 to 5 weeks fulfillment, and it's ridiculous. But at the same time, it's their businesses. They're out to make a profit, and they're going to act in their interest.
Yeah.
And this is, unfortunately, authors are collateral damage in this case. So I realize that's coming off as not sympathetic to the author, but you got to be realistic about it. They are out to make money. That is what they do.
Yeah.
I wonder if that strengthens the case for authors who are going into the hybrid mode of self-publishing. I wonder if these kinds of tensions are going to keep pushing authors in that direction because they don't want to get caught in the crossfire of that.
It's possible.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to use an analogy that probably isn't dead on here, but if you're a Big Five publisher, right? You're wanting to move a lot of product. I mean, you're frickin' Budweiser, right? You want gallons of your beer consumed at every bar in America on a daily basis, right? And so, if you're going to move that kind of product, Amazon is part of your reality. They're going to sell a lot of your books, just like Walmart is going to sell a lot of your beer if you're Budweiser. But if you're a craft brewer and in Bangor, I don't even Maine, you can be choosy about where your product appears. You don't have to sell via Amazon, or So I don't know. It's but Hatchet as a Big Five is Budweiser, and it's regardless of whether Amazon is acting in good faith or not good faith or whatever. You need to have your beer sold through this particular retail outfit. So I'm not sure what good it is going to ultimately do them to have made this so public and ugly, because they're going to have to figure it out.
Yeah.
They're either going to have to figure it out, or they're going to have to hope that Amazon just kind of collapses on itself. So, good luck with that hope. Would be my message. So.
That would be the great Amazon singularity of 2000 never.
Well, I mean, the other thing is, I am guessing that Amazon has taken so many pot shots at being the evil empire that to them this kind of negative publicity is like, really? Whereas Hatchet is, they'll take the bigger hit in terms of publicity wise.
Well, they're going to face
interesting.
They're going to face the bigger pressure for sure, because if the books are no longer being sold, the authors are going to say, solve this thing,
Right.
So yeah, I try to be as clear-eyed about it as I possibly can. I mean, it's a big old tangled mess. But when you get right down to it, it's big, deep-pocketed corporation fighting with big, deep-pocketed corporation over who gets what and how much. So.
And again, like I said, to me this is the exact same fight that the cable company and the cable channels have been having. And you just kind of walk away and just go, figure it out amongst yourselves. I'm going to watch Netflix. I'm going to get my content someplace else. You guys can act like children and squabble over every nickel and dime and who's going to make more money and all of that, and I'm gonna do something else with my time.
Right.
Which I think is also the reality of today. It's like, okay, I'm not going to read any of your books then. I'm going to read somebody else's, and I'm not going to buy them. I'm going to buy them someplace else.
Right. Yeah.
We had a question.
Oh, good.
Oh, cool.
Chris Godso says, have you ever read a book that you enjoyed so much that you wished you had written it?
Oh, God, yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. In fact, that's how I became a famous novelist. I wish I had gotten that idea. I wish I had written it. Yeah. I wish I was that funny. That would be one of them.
Craig just fired off something to somebody.
Yeah. Sorry. I was accepting an invitation for beers.
Okay.
I said let me ditch these three bums, and I'll be over there. There's this author I really love, and I'm fortunate to have gotten to know him a little bit. And in fact, he hooked me up with my agent, so he's just been a gem of a guy right down the line. But his name's Jonathan Evison, and I pretty much feel that way every time I read something he writes. You know, like I read it and I get sort of this sick feeling to my stomach because it's so damn good and it's so much better than anything I can write, and you know, and I kind of want to. I would love to hate him, but he's just such a great guy. You know, I mean, as good a novelist as he is, he's just a better human being, and so I can't hate him. So I hate Keisling instead. It's like proxy.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
The comedy of hate. Join us.
Won't you please? Yeah. It's the people who hate people party, as Bill Hicks once
yes, exactly.
put in one of his songs. You know, not songs, but one of his comedy albums. You know, the people who hate people party. People come together. No.
I always loved his flying. He would call his tours in the southern United States his flying saucer tours because, like flying saucers, he found himself appearing in front of large groups of hillbillies lately.
He had this great thing about like post gig. You know, he's at a Cracker Barrel in, you know, Murfreesboro or something, and he's reading a book, you know, while he's waiting for his eggs.
Waffle House. It was
right.
Waffle House.
Yeah, okay, Waffle House. Sure. Yeah. While he's waiting for his waffle, and you know, one of the locals comes up to him and goes, "Well, we got ourselves a reader here." Yeah.
I stepped out of some intellectual closet. There, I read. I said it. I feel better.
Yeah. I'm no match for the guy who's memorized the albums.
Sorry.
That's all right.
My wife and I have this tradition every time we drive to visit my family in Kentucky. The last, like, when we hit Lexington, Kentucky on I-75, it's about the exact length of a Bill Hicks album to get to my hometown. So we put in the CD, and we have it memorized, but it's just become, we always do it. Yeah. Because going to Kentucky is our own sort of flying saucer tour. So, yeah, I'm sorry. I do have a lot of Bill Hicks memorized because I've heard it, you know, ad nauseum for 10 fucking years. But sorry to get sidetracked, Chris. Back on topic, I guess.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Sorry.
How we do in the hood. I think mine, well, a lot of them, but the one that always comes to mind is Isabel the Navigator by Luke Davies, who is an Australian author, novelist, poet, screenwriter, and all around, just he's awesome. And that's just a really good book. In fact, one that I feel, going back to the original topic, we were talking about, you know, women's fiction, if that's a genre. I mean, he's a dude, and he wrote this novel from a women's perspective. So he does this fantastic job. Just the prose is amazing, and it's a heartbreaking, awesome book. And so every time I want to feel inspired, I read that book. It's really good. And anything by him, really, if you're, you know, interested in, well, just really well-written stuff. I think his stuff is on Amazon, even though he's Australian. Some of it is. So.
We actually got another question.
Cool.
Yay!
Let me find it. Oh, okay. So Reggie Lutz. Okay, here's my question. What made some of you choose self-publishing? I think we all can answer this question in one way or another.
Yes. I'll take point on this. It's probably one of the pettiest answers ever, but someone told me I couldn't do it. I mean, seriously. She went on to become a modestly successful, traditionally published author, and I wish her the best. But when I knew this person when we were still friends and her agent didn't change her complete personality, yeah.
Awesome.
She told me that this was back when I was still writing my first novel, Life Transparent, and I told her that I was thinking about releasing it myself, and she's like, "You'll never be successful doing that." And I said, "Well, I will prove you wrong." And it's been a slow climb, but I am a hell of a lot more successful now than I was the day I released the story in 2007. So, fuck you, nameless friend.
Revealing a private message, maybe?
What's interesting is that my editor, Amelia, actually sent me a message about a year and a half ago, and she's like, I met this author at this book signing, and I told her that I wrote, I am an editor, and she's like, oh, is there anybody I might know? And she's like, my editor says, I said your name, and she's like, oh, I know him. And she like started talking, and it turned out she was at the signing for the author that I happened to mention, and which was kind of awkward. Like, yeah, that's a history. But yeah, I on top of that whole reason, I do it and continue to do it because I like the control aspect of it. I don't like someone telling me that they know what's better for my work than I do. That might be a little naive, I admit that, but it's worked out for me so far. Mainly because I interact with my audience so much, and I try to get to know them as much as possible and put myself out there as much as possible. That's not to say that I would ever turn down an offer. God knows I've actually come fairly close in the last few years, but there's just the whole. I feel like I have a decent thing going. I have my team, I have my editor, I have my designer, and I have my network of beta readers and people who provide feedback. And I've been building this audience over a period of years, and it continues to grow exponentially. And I feel that is one of the most rewarding things, that I can look back and say, here's where I started, and here I am now. And if I continue on this trajectory, I'm going to be light years beyond in just another year or two. And I can say that I did this on my own. And for me, it's more about the fulfillment of from that aspect, rather than the practicality of sending out, and trying the agent submission game and trying and failing and failing and failing and failing and failing, and then it's getting accepted.
Yeah. Well, I can answer this just because I still kind of have this uneasy sort of alliance with the way that I broke in, which was, I was a journalist for 25 years, and so all the elements of writing and editing and designing and preparing for publication, something I'm well familiar with. I built my whole professional life on it. But fiction, I kind of did. I started out as a lark. It was a challenge. Somebody asked me to do National Novel Writing Month, and I did it, and I wrote what became my first novel. And the reason that I initially self-published it is I just didn't have any idea what I had, and so I thought, well, here's this nascent technology, and I'll give this a whirl, and I'll see what comes of it. What came of it was later a traditional publishing deal, and then my ongoing association with the Amazon imprints, the New York agent, and all the things that many of the things that constitute a traditional publishing career, but it's been completely like walking through back doors and side doors and coming at it from the side, and I just feel more comfortable that way. You know, I like sort of doing things on my own terms and then making adjustments midstream, whatever the reality of the situation is. You know, and what's kind of tough about that is that it always goes back to this National Novel Writing Month thing, and it sounds like that I was a complete dilettante, you know, and that's not really true. I took the writing very seriously. It's just that what the springboard was this, you know, manufactured, you know, writing, limbing write-off thing, you know, and so whatever. You know, I mean, I'm in it up to my neck now. It is my career, and I'm as serious as a heart attack about it. And you know, I've especially in my home state, you know, with it's just such a literary place, and I've kind of dealt with some backlash from some people, you know, just because of how I got started. You know, that I didn't go off to the MFA program and, you know, kill myself for years on submissions and all that. And, you know, one dude in particular gets on my case about that. And, you know, really my bottom line message to him is, go fuck yourself, buddy. I mean,
yes, yes.
You know, I did what worked for me. You know,
Yeah.
my entire career has not been an active attempt to make you feel like an asshole. You know, you got there on your own. So, so anyway, there you go.
See, but to that point, there's this mentality in certain literary circles, literary for lack of a better term, that if you self-publish, you haven't paid your dues, you're cheating the
Yes.
system. And anybody who I know who has gone through the process of actually self-publishing and done it right, and, you know, gotten the designer, gotten the editor, and actually put their, you know, blood, sweat, and tears into what they're doing, anyone who says we're lazy, fuck off. Fuck off.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Seriously. It's that mentality pisses me off so much, and I'm so glad that old, you know, that the literary elite group is finally fucking dying off, because it's ridiculous. It's absurd, you know.
Yeah, and that whole, you get into the whole oceans of crap thing. Like, well, you know, if everybody's out there publishing a book, it's going to undermine all the legitimate authors. No, it's not. You know, I mean, all the bad books are going to sink to the bottom of the sea, just like they always do. You know, the guy who runs the oatmeal is not worried about some asshole in Poughkeepsie who, you know, designs his webpage in fucking Comic Sans. So just, you know, like if you're that insecure, if you're established and you're good and you can get a publishing contract and you can get somebody to invest in your book and bring it out, and you're really, really scared of some 19-year-old in, you know, Centralia, Washington, who is putting up a badly designed, badly conceived, badly written book, you know, then really you should have a long talk with your therapist about why you feel so insecure. Because
Can't afford a therapist because the advance wasn't that much.
yeah, that's a
Cheers, motherfucker.
You won't be earning for 3 years because, you know, because you grabbed the $500 advance, and the bastard is only selling about 10 copies a month. So.
Oh my god.
Anyway, yeah, you may sense some bitterness here, and I just.
Oh, I'm not bitter.
Oh, I'm not bitter. I'm pissed off. Yeah, right.
Well, it's funny because when I started, I also used National Novel Writing Month, and I had no experience in the publishing world. I didn't even go to college, let alone MFA or any of that kind of stuff. and I just felt like I had, something pretty decent on my hands that I had, come out with. And I have a friend who's an editor, and she agreed very kindly to, destroy my, third draft and make me put it back together again. And I did all the querying, I did the research. How are you supposed to, get your novel out? And so I did that. And I got some good response, but I always got the same thing. We like the novel, we can't market. And I'm like, well, fuck it, I can market it. So I put it out, and I'm like, and I had no idea what I was doing when I first started. Actually, what inspired me, oddly enough, I don't know if you guys know The Lonely Island, the guys who were on Saturday Night Live for a while. They started in their apartment making videos that were really kind of stupid and almost funny, and they slowly got discovered, and they ended up on Saturday Night Live. And I'm like, well, why can't I do that with my book? I mean, why can't I just put it online? And so I did, and for free. I got one of those Google, the Google websites that were free, Google Pages, I think it was, and it started from there. And then I put it, I met a couple people who were self-publishing. I'm like, oh, there's a name for that, and there's a way to do it the right way. And I did the research, I did the work, I busted my ass, I invested money, and that's, and that's how I got started. And I just, honestly, not really having a clue what I was doing to begin with, and not having any, I think the thing is, I didn't have any, mental reservations, because I didn't know there was, a right and wrong way. I didn't know there was any prejudice out there. I think if I had known, I probably wouldn't have given a shit, and I would have done it anyway. But I think it did help not really knowing what I was getting into at first. And I feel the same way. If I were to start out right now, I think I would do it the exact same way.
Right on.
I did, when I wrote my first novel, Faking It, I had just finished my master's in professional writing, although for me the emphasis was rhetoric and composition, which meant I was going to spend the rest of my life teaching English 101 and being an academic, and I was fully ready to embrace that, but this idea for this novel wouldn't leave me. So I wrote it, and at the time I didn't really have any confidence as a fiction writer. I was doing a lot of nonfiction. Like I said, I was doing some academic writing, and lo and behold, it was coming out good. And one of the reasons why I think it came out good is because I went in saying, well, nobody ever has to see this. It can suck as much as it needs to suck, because nobody ever has to read this. And I really embraced that. Write the novel you want to read. And so I came out with Faking It, and then I fell in love with novel writing, and I said, wow, I can do this. And I was slowly starting to show it to people, and people were saying, this is really good. In 2006, I moved to North Carolina, and I had this manuscript with me, and I didn't know what to do with it, because again, I was so into the academic side. I didn't know anything about publishing a novel or publishing a book or what a literary agent was or anything like that. Like I said, I was looking forward to a long career in universities. And I'm literally the first person, or the first two people I met in North Carolina and became friends with, was Stacy Cochran. I know all you guys know Stacy. And he took me under his wing and said, this is how you query a literary agent. This is the difference between traditional publishing. And at the time, Lulu.com was kind of up and coming, because they were based in actually where I lived at the time, which was Morrisville, and then they moved to Raleigh, and they were literally down the street from NC State. And Stacy started partnering with them and kind of doing these workshops of, this is how you self-publish on Lulu. So I was weighing my options with that. So I was querying agents, and I was getting a lot of rejections, but I was also getting some, this is very good, but I don't know how to sell it, which is kind of what you said, Cal. And I got to the point where I said, well, I can sell it.
Right.
You know, I kind of knew what it was, and I had experience in retail sales, and I had experience in customer service. I had a lot of experience with networking. I had that confidence, and I didn't let the rejection poison my thinking that I couldn't do it. And at that point, I said, well, I've got 3 places to start. I've got my Long Island network, I've got my Massachusetts network, and now I've got a North Carolina network. So I figured that's a good place to start. And that's kind of how I did it. And I had no budget to work on, so I did everything myself, which I do not recommend. The same thing, I just kind of figured this will find. I had no idea who was going to read it and who was going to like it, but I had the confidence to say, I love it, I think it's a good book, and I think it will find its audience. Everything changed when Kindle, when you could, Kindle Direct Publishing came out, and I just followed Stacy's lead. Stacy was publishing his novels on Kindle, and he was doing really, really well with them. And then it just became well, if Stacy can do it, I can do it. So I just did what he did, and I figured out the trial, the mistakes, and I navigated the forums and how to promote yourself without being obnoxious, and how to do a blog tour, and things just, I wrote about this a little bit in Friends of Mine, in my memoir, about how everything, I just happened to be one of those people where everything fell into place at the right time. Facebook was just up and coming, and I realized I could use that to do more than just my 3 states of residence. I could reach people all over the place using Facebook, using Twitter, and I kind of saw the opportunity for that, and that's never happened to me before, where I kind of saw I was in that zeitgeist at that very moment and riding that wave. It was kind of like those early bands that got on MTV, and one made the other. It just happened to work out that way.
I'm sorry.
That's kind of how it happened with me, and why I did it. I just believed I could, and same thing. Similar to what you said, Craig. I don't think I've ever taken a straight path anywhere. I've always, I've certainly have not taken shortcuts. I forge my own path a lot of times. So if that's not, if somebody says the road is closed, then I, build a new road, kind of thing, or I take, or I go around the detour and kind of find my way to it, and it certainly made for a lot more interesting life. Not always easier, but certainly interesting.
I'm going to say something that's probably going to come across as really trite, but I also think the 4 of us would probably attest to it being true. Success in publishing, and of course, success is a relative term with many applications. To me, has been mostly about being there, showing up,
Yes.
trying, pushing through. I've got a funny story about my initial agent search with my first novel, 600 Hours of Edward. I sent it off, I probably sent it off to 5 people the first go-round and tried to wait for those answers. And I was getting effusive notes, in some cases handwritten, about, I really love this book, but I'm not sure how to sell it. The same thing Kel and Elisa were getting. And I knew so little about that world that I didn't realize that was a remarkable thing, that agents, usually your answer is silence, and so,
Yeah.
well, okay, I guess we'll move on. and so one of the people who said that was my current agent, and so I was like, oh crap, she's really good. I would have liked to have hooked up with her. So fast forward to my third novel, and I had written to my friend and said, I really need a breakthrough here. Do you have any advice, anything like this? And he says, I'm gonna have Molly give you a call. Okay, so she calls me up, and I remind her that we've talked before, and that she read my full manuscript and reluctantly passed on it. And she's like, I've always wondered what happened to that book, and so what was really cool about that is I thought, she agreed to take me on for Edward Adrift, but it wasn't just Edward Adrift. A lot of times, when an author hooks you up with his agent, that agent will help you sell one book, and then they'll be out of the picture. But based on the fact that I had presented her with a good first book, and I had kept plugging, I had published one other novel and had a third one that she was going to handle the negotiations for, she took me on, that book and beyond, just on the basis of my showing up with my lunch pail every day and going to work, And I don't think it would have happened any other way, but for the fact that I kept showing up. And so when people ask me, God, I don't seem to be knocking down this wall or something, I'm like, show up and hit it again, and keep hitting it, or hit another part of it, because maybe it's a little softer over here, but, I don't know how to tell you how to get the wall out of your way. I'm just telling you that there is something beyond the wall, and if you keep running into it, you'll eventually get to there,
Sometimes
and maybe
you need
in a way
to use
that
your
will
head.
maybe in a way that will completely delight you, completely defy your expectations of the way this thing is supposed to go.
I have to say this too. That was really cool, and I this was kind of after the fact, when I was kind of trying to figure, when I had all this success, and was trying to go back and kind of retrace my steps and figure out how it all happened. But about a year later, I think, when Amanda Hocking became huge,
Right.
Yeah.
somebody pointed me to her blog where she, answered the same question: How did I do it? How did I get where I am? And I nearly, my jaw dropped to the floor, because she said, "Well, I read this article about Elisa Lorello."
Oh, awesome.
And I was
Really?
like,
Very cool.
"Oh, what?"
Nice.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she sold like 10 times the amount of books that I did, but I was like, wow,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I inspired somebody to do better than what I did. And I was like, that's really cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. And it's and what's awesome about that is that, it's, like I said, success has many definitions, she's a success and you're a success, and, it's, I don't know, I find that, like I say, show up, have the hammer, swing the hammer, think good things will happen,
Become the hammer.
Be one with the hammer. Hammerosity. No, it's just, yeah. And I think it's funny that three of us, and Todd, maybe this was also the case with you, like three of us got that specific line of, I love your book, I don't know how to sell it, like, because,
actually,
right.
Yeah, nobody, not one person said the writing is not good.
Right.
Not one agent who took the time to respond.
Right.
Every single one said it's not the writing. And
I
it's
got
not
that
it's
line.
not a bad story. It was just not for me, or I don't know how to sell it, or I'm not in love with it, whatever it was. So I think that was something that did not deter me.
Right.
It was,
my first novel was released on Lulu in late 2006, and what's interesting is that someone who read it back in the day actually ended up having a contact at Tor and sent it to Tor, who emailed me and this person, and it boiled down to the same thing. We loved it. How the fuck do we sell it?
Yeah.
So I do understand where you're coming from, but that kind of mentality was, well, what do you mean you don't know how to sell it? That you figure it out. We can figure this out. It's not difficult.
Yeah.
You go and you find out who wants to read it.
I love being able, and I mean, the number that I'm going to quote here is not any kind of world beater number, but it's it's about 5 digits bigger than I ever allowed myself to dream of. I just like when I think about those days and people telling me, love your book, don't know how to sell it. I love the satisfaction of being here and knowing that book that some people didn't think they knew how to sell has sold about 80,000 copies. I just just okay. Well, thank God somebody did. So.
I always like to sell people who weren't my family, and who I didn't know, and 100,000 copies later, and it's like, holy crap, who knew? That was even beyond my, visualization, and I'm pretty good when it comes to visualization. I do dream big and clearly. With my visions and
well, and there've been all kinds of strange things that like pinch me kind of moments. I have, if you'll indulge me, I've got one story that's just cool and then one that's kind of funny.
All right.
The cool story is one of the gigs that I do in addition to writing is I design a quarterly magazine, and so the production days of that magazine, I have to go to Livingston, Montana, about 115 miles from where I live. And so one of my friends in Livingston has a cot that I stay on that night that I'm in town. And the most recent time I was there, she had just come back from an independent film festival in Oregon, and she said, "You're not going to believe this, but I was at this mixer for this independent film fest, and I'm talking to this guy, and he's saying, man, I gotta ditch this place. I gotta go home. I'm reading this book that I just love. I gotta get back to it." And she said, "Well, come on, share." And he goes, "Yeah, it's this 600 Hours of Edward by Craig Lancaster."
That's awesome.
She goes, "Yeah, he sleeps on my cot every 3 months." and so he's like, "Really?" And so she tells me that, and I'm like, man, that did not really happen in this world. The funny story, and it's much shorter, thank God, is a couple of years ago, my wife and I were at the big blues fest here in downtown Billings, and thank God I don't get recognized very often, and I'm glad for that. But this woman who's standing in front of me in the street turns around, she does a double take, and then she turns around and she goes, "Are you Craig Lancaster?" And I'm like, is it bill collector or something? And so I go, yeah. She, well, I just loved, this book. And my wife leans across me and says to her, she goes, "He cheers for his farts." Totally deflate her. Yeah.
Go, Angie.
Yeah. She just brought you down a few notches right there.
Well, and the horrible thing is it's true. I do.
Okay, moving on. Thank you.
Yeah. That's right.
Oh my God.
Thank you for that, Craig. Thank you.
We can cut this part off of the YouTube thing, right?
Oh no, we're saving this for posterity's sake.
No, because that's the part everybody's gonna scroll to,
Right.
1 hour and 54 minutes, and you'll hear Craig talk about how he cheers for his, yeah.
Yeah.
That'll get the most, we'll have 1 million views just because of that.
Well, you're welcome.
Have any of you had a brush with fame other than Craig's being spotted? Have any of you had or met somebody who recognized you or sent you fan
Sort
mail
of.
or somebody?
It was kind of odd, actually. I did a small tour for my second novel, The Liminal Man, which is right here, and it's on sale. I did a small tour, start kicking off in my hometown, and in Corbin, Kentucky, and there was this huge write-up in the newspaper, and because it was a really slow news day that day, and it was bizarre. We it's about 12-hour drive, so my wife and I, we left fairly early. We get home that evening in Kentucky, and so my parents took us out to dinner, and we're at the steakhouse because that's probably the nicest place you could go in my hometown, is a steakhouse, and I'm eating a salad, and I look up, and there's this guy looking at me. I'm kind of weirded out by it because I'm like, is this going to be one of those moments where I had this, oh, you're an outsider, epiphany? Because I get that a lot when I go home now, because I don't talk like that anymore. So it's not uncommon for me to get weird looks, because I'm a weird guy. I admit that. You guys know that already. And this dude, it has the newspaper right in front of him. He's reading the article and looking at my face on the paper, and he's looking at me, and he's looking back at the paper, and he gets up and he goes and talks to the manager of the steakhouse. And in like 10 minutes, I have like three members of the wait staff and the manager standing around me, talking to me all at once, and about writing and like how what are my influences and all this stuff. And I'm like, you should really come to the signing tomorrow night. And they're like, oh, we got to work. All right, thanks. It's on Amazon. Bye.
Did you get a free meal out of it?
No.
Oh man! Where's that?
Didn't get a free meal out of it. Maybe next time.
What the hell kind of sighting is that?
Yeah, no fame stories, and there probably never will be any so long as I am copping to my bodily emissions. But but I had the singularly cool experience of walking onto an airplane here in Billings and seeing someone reading my book rather than the latest Dan Brown.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool. I would like to see that. And I admit that when I go on, well, the rare times I get on a plane, I do look to see what people are reading with the hopes that it will be one of my books.
Yeah, that and really, honestly, in a strange way, the best part of that was just walking by and being the only one who knew. Like I wasn't going to disturb the moment or anything like that. I just, that was the best part.
We had another question.
Oh yeah, about marketing.
Yeah.
Reggie jumped in with.
Well, can I tell my story first?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Can I do my little bit of bragging? Well, in faking it, and I know you guys probably know about this. In faking it, I when I wrote that, I was fresh out of my master's program, so I was full of all this idealism and rhetorical theory, and put it all into the book because I decided that my protagonist was going to be a rhetoric and composition professor. And I cited actual articles that I had read, and one of them was by Peter Elbow, who was very influential on the composition teacher that I became, and even though I'm not teaching now, I still call myself a teacher, and certainly influenced my writing and the way I write and the way I think about writing. And I call him the Paul McCartney of rhetoric and composition because he is probably one of the most cited scholars in the field, and I think just about everybody knows who he is and admires, and he's one of those groundbreakers. So for years, my friends were saying, you should send a copy to Peter Elbow. You should send a copy, and I was like, no, that's too embarrassing. Well, I think it was about a year ago, I got an email from Peter Elbow saying that he said somebody sent me told me about faking it, and I read it, and I was absolutely delighted by it. And he said, I always thought sex and rhetoric went together, but you really managed to bring it out very well. And that was both a career moment, a career highlight, and a life highlight. So that was pretty great. And the really cool thing is, we continue the conversation. So occasionally I will email him, and I will talk about composition and writing and all those wonderful things. And I still get a little starstruck by him. And the other thing, of course, is that I have a photo of John Taylor holding Friends of Mine.
Yes.
And his pinky is touching Kel's name.
That's the important part of that picture, yes.
Well, I guess that's a measure of success then. Until John Taylor's holding a copy of A Life Transparent, I'm a failure. Unless I can get Simon Le Bon to admit he's Batman, damn it.
Yes. I'll see what I can do. So shall we take one more question? And then
Kel, real
we'll
quick,
wrap it up?
Kel, do you have something to jump in with on
yes.
that last point?
Oh, well, I was recognized at work today, which is pretty cool. One of my Facebook friends who I've never met in person, I actually know her brother, and he told her about my book, and she read it in front of me on Facebook. And she lives in England, so I was working today at a candy store, because that's what we do when we're famous authors. And
it's true.
Yeah, and she goes, "Are you RJ?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, nobody calls me RJ like in my real life." So I knew it had to be something like that. And there she was from England, and she had her family with her, and that was pretty cool. So that was like a very fresh, I don't know that I'm, famous, encounter, but it was kind of a cool experience.
I think that's pretty damn awesome, to be honest.
I do too. Yes. I think
that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's great.
So we have one more question.
Right, and it was the marketing piece of self-publishing, and I'll dive in first because I can be extremely brief about this.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Craig, but can you read the question specifically?
I did. He was it's Reggie, and it was to say he's the one who asked about the self-publishing, and he just asked, like how do you handle the marketing piece? And
okay.
I can be extremely brief on this. I was horrible at it and continue to be horrible at it. It's funny. I have people approach me and say, "Well, you've got this social media stuff down," and really all I do is just be who I am, on social media, which is, I crack wise about my dad, and I bitch about sports, and I repost headlines from The Onion, none of which sells me a lot of books, but I think it allows me to be the person to people who've read my books that I am to anybody who meets me, and I think there's value in that. I don't really have any desire to maintain an image, and if I do, it's completely blown after the last anecdote. So I actually see great value for me in having a publisher who has real marketing savvy, because they can do for me what I cannot do as well for myself. That said, if the world changes and I may not always have this publisher, and I'm prepared to apply the lessons that I've learned along with the readers that I've managed to cultivate, and go at it a different way on some future book, if that's the way things go. So every book is a decision, are you going to self-publish it? Are you going to look for a big five? Or are you going to go with some kind of hybrid situation like Elisa and Keller and I have with Amazon publishing? There's a lot of different things you can do. What I do is I just am prepared to go any of those directions.
I actually think there's a lot of value, Craig, to what you were saying about social media, and I think that like when I'm on Facebook, I'm just me, and I post my weird whatever thoughts about things, and I think it gives people an idea of your writing style, or your personality, which always comes across, I think, in your novel writing. So I really suggest, not that you can just depend on that, but you can't use social media as a non-stop 24/7 commercial for your stuff. And I think that that's where people go wrong, and I think that's where you've sort of done really well. Actually, I think the four of us have done really well in that regard. So if you're using social media for marketing, make sure you do it in a smart way, that you're marketing your voice and not your book. Because if you market your voice and you are yourself and you're showing off that writing talent, then the sales can follow. Whereas if you are just posting links to your book or whatever, that doesn't really work. It's spam. People delete it, or they unfriend you, or they just skip past it, and it doesn't really amount to a whole lot.
I agree completely with that. And by the way, my wife loves your Doctor Who posts.
Doctor Who.
But no, I agree 100%. That's something that I had came to terms with, pretty early on when A Life Transparent was re-released a few years back. Just trying to give people a better sense of who I am and what I'm about. And I don't know, the monochrome novels are more philosophical, and I feel like that's something nobody ever really picked up on. So I started doing that, talking more about how I kind of look at things and stuff, and it kind of went from there. I kind of treat social media as an extension of what I would write about on my blog.
Right.
If I kept a blog regularly, which I don't because I'm a bad person. But yeah, in marketing in general, though, I hate it. It sucks. I've said it on Twitter many times in the past. I warn people before I'm going to promote something, because I feel dirty afterwards. I feel like I need to go take a shower and wash off the marketing goo. It's like I'm covered in and just bathed in it for the moment. I'm like, oh God, no. And I don't know. It's just this thing that we have to kind of learn to cope with, because it's not going away. It's a necessity. It's not enjoyable by any stretch, but I try to find the joy in it as much as possible, so you can at least live with yourself while you do it. But that's my take on it. Back to you, Elisa.
Well, thanks, Todd.
No problem.
What all of you guys said, the longer I'm doing this, the more stymied I am by how do you sell books. I don't really know. I've learned the trick to selling books is by not selling them. And like all of you said, it's be yourself, connect, be genuine, connect to readers. I think I sell more books when I'm posting about Pop-Tarts and Nutella than when I'm actually saying, here's my book, it's on sale. And I don't really saturate my posts with, links to my books and stuff like that unless I'm doing a launch. When like for She Has Your Eyes, I was posting the Amazon links and reporting that, the rankings and stuff like that. And that's when I get very in your face with promoting, is just when that launches, when the book is launched and I'm excited about it. Other than that, I try to keep as low key as possible. And sometimes it's just, you kind of start to figure out what people are responding to. And the one thing I think I should do that I haven't done more is to pay attention to analytics, to look at, what are people responding to when they're responding to my tweets, and what are they responding to on my Facebook page.
Don't
and
do
stuff
it.
like that.
It's a rabbit hole. It never stops. Just don't,
Yeah,
don't get sucked into that.
I don't have patience for it yet, or I just want to sit down with somebody and have somebody tell me what it is and have them break it all down for me instead of me trying to navigate it myself. But other than that, I mean, I've accepted that social networking is part of my job. And I'm okay with that, and luckily I'm extroverted, and for the most part I enjoy it, and so I don't mind it. I like getting out and doing public speaking gigs because I like to meet people and see, and I think the one thing with e-publishing is after a while it just becomes a bunch of numbers, that you're selling X number of books, but you're not thinking about the people who are reading them, except for the ones who you're constantly interacting with on Facebook and stuff. But I remember last year I did a reading, and this woman sat in the front row, and she said, "I've read all your books." And I actually said, "Really?" I suddenly realized, oh, it's real people who read this, and they can talk to me. That's great. So that's a lot of fun. So I think it's just, right now I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, and I've stopped doing these group promotions, and I think the last one I did, I think was Christmas time or January or something, and I was kind of like, I'm just done with this. It's a whole lot of saturation, and it's a whole lot of spam, and it doesn't really sell any books. And all the authors who are involved are like, I can't believe I'm not selling anything. And I'm like, well, that's not the way you sell, And so I'm just kind of done with that. And really, I just want to I want to write the next thing. I mean, that's always what I come back to, is I can't wait to get back to work, meaning get back to the next book, or whatever the next novel is, the next project. And on that note,
are we done?
I think we're done.
Oh, already?
I do want to point out real quick, Elisa, it just occurred to me, I actually wrote a story my freshman year of college titled She Has Your Eyes.
Really?
Yeah, I did.
I'll bet it was way creepier than my story.
I bet you're right. It was it was about a cult of children that worshiped the television.
I just threw something on the event page just because I think it ties into what we were just talking about. I did this stupid graphic one time for, if you're trying to decide whether to follow me on my regular, Craig Lancaster is just some asshole who lives in Montana page, or if you're wanting to follow me on my author page, it sort of breaks down the benefits of both of them. So for the edification of the group. There you go.
I might have to swipe this and use this for my own purpose.
Oh, yeah.
This is brilliant.
Yeah.
This is brilliant.
Swipe it.
Oh my God.
Humorous anecdotes about Dad. I gotta tell you, that's one of the reasons I'm a friend of yours, Craig.
Yeah.
I love hearing about your dad. Your dad is one of the coolest men I have never met.
Yeah. Well, see, and that's why you think that he's cool.
Yeah, the consensus is I have to write a book about conversations between my mom and me for the same reason.
Right. Right.
They're getting very, and I don't post them on my author page. I don't know. Maybe I should start. I think my mother's pissed off enough that I post it on my personal page.
Yeah. Well, this was fun.
Fun.
Yeah. We'll have to do
it was.
Whether there are questions or not. You know.
Yeah.
Next time with maybe more booze for me and Todd. So by the 135 mark, you know, I'm saying to Todd, you know, the reason nobody likes you is because you're always, or whatever, you know.
No, I want you to finish that fucking sentence, Lancaster.
The reason nobody likes you is because you're always demanding that they finish their sentences.
And now's probably a good time to show you that, oh, I had something written on the other side of this. Just to make sure that I was looking in the camera instead of looking everywhere but. This was my little reminder.
Nice. Very nice.
Somebody should convert your handwriting to a font. I think I would like to use that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Did it work, by the way? Were my eyes wandering all over, or was I more or less focused?
I was mostly focused. I was watching, actually. Sorry.
I
That was
barely
just like one of
opened
those
my
weird
eyes
things.
during the whole thing, so I couldn't tell you.
I figured at least one of you was going to say ice front, Lorello. So
I didn't want to interrupt you because you were doing so well.
And on that note,
Yeah.
thanks for coming, everybody who did. Thanks to everybody who posted questions and comments, and hopefully you guys had as much fun as we did. And this will be recorded, right? So they can, if they didn't get to see it today, they will be able to see it.
Yes.
Another time.
It will be
Am I
on
correct?
YouTube momentarily at the link that you are viewing now.
Awesome.
You will be able to watch it when it's done doing its thing, whatever YouTube does, other than show you ads constantly. Yeah, it'll be up in a few minutes. I'll repost the link after we're done broadcasting. Great. So you guys want to, do another shout out around, talk about your work real quick, and then we'll call it quits? Craig,
sure.
You, buddy.
You guys go first.
I'm sorry, I didn't know that heavy pause meant me. Yeah, Craig Lancaster, Billings, Montana. The author of 3 novels, soon to be 4, and a short story collection that has been widely disregarded. Yeah.
I love that short story collection, by the way. Anybody who doesn't buy it is a bad person.
I
Go buy it.
I really do.
I mean it for once, actually.
Yeah. All right, Lorello.
Next.
Yeah.
Oh, me next? Okay.
Yes.
Elisa Lorello. I'm the New Yorker, and who's or the Northeasterner, I should say now, and I'm the author of 6 books, and you could go to Elisa Lorello Author on Facebook. You could go to at Elisa Lorello on Twitter, or you could go to elisalorello.com and check out my stuff, which was a very un-New York thing to say.
Kel.
Go Yankees.
Yes. Ew. Don't say that over. I am RJ Keller. I live in Bangor. I don't even know her Maine. And I'm definitely the Red Sox fan. the author of Waiting for Spring, in which the protagonist is also a Red Sox fan, and that's why you should read it. And I'm working on 2 new books that will hopefully be out within another year or so. So that's me. Keisling, back to you.
And I'm Todd Keisling, and I am Craig Lancaster's arch nemesis. I'm the author of 2 novels, A Life Transparent and The Liminal Man, and they are also available on Kindle, and as well as the Ugly Little Things series, horror series of short fiction. And you can find me at toddkeisling.com, facebook.com/todd.keisling, I think it is, and Todd_Keisling at Twitter. So I'm all over the place. If you Google me, you'll find me. And if you get the guy who's a bass player for a metal band called Dystopia, it's the wrong guy. So.
Speaking of which, I should end by saying I think we're one step away from starting a band, the 4 of us.
That would be a really scary band.
I play a mean kazoo.
I think Elisa's the only one with actual musical talent.
Actually, I can play a little bit of piano. Thank you.
Oh, really?
Yes.
All right. Well,
we'll auto-tune you, Craig.
you do, and I'm quitting the band.
Oh, that's going to be my next project.
Or either that or we'll give you the tambourine. How about that?
Yeah, I guess. I want to play the bass. I don't have one, but I do want to play it. So we're going to have to work this out.
We can take the Ed Lauder experience on the road, Craig.
There you go.
Thing where you blow into the beer bottles and make
Now we're going to have to extend the broadcast by an hour to explain the Ed Lauder shit.
Yes, we'll do that. That'll be the next show. We'll open with that.
That's a teaser. Next week, Ed Lauder.
Yeah,
Tune in next
Craig,
time.
Ed Lauder.
Next time
All right,
for a character actor who's been dead for 2 years. Okay.
All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye, y'all.